What's up, my good people? This is your host, Pauline, and thanks for tuning in to episode 2 of the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast. I'm going to be discussing how the Golden State Warriors are already bringing out their dustpans for this series, as well as the Olympics this summer in Brazil. There's a little bit of worries about the Zika virus, but as long as my players can stay healthy and their knees could work, we'll get there. So tune in, listen up, and let's talk basketball.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA, from the UFC to extreme cage fighting. They got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Going back on game 1 of the finals, I really loved that Clay and Steph didn't have to be the top scorers in order to really contribute for their team. We talked about this a little bit in episode 1, where it was the game of the supporting cast and that the bench really stepped it up in game 1. And I believe that's because Clay and Steph understand that they have to make plays without the ball. They have to make sure that they're drawing a lot of attention and that the Cavaliers, their defense is focused so much on them and worried so much about what they're going to do that they're actually creating opportunities for their team. And that's why, Draymond, he had a lot of opportunities to shoot those threes, and he was able to be him and Sean Livingston were able to both, get on those charts and do very well because their main guys, Steph and Clay, they're not ball hogs. When they have a great game and they're doing well, they do their thing. But if they're off, which during game 1, they were, a little bit off as far as the shooting end was concerned, that's okay. They don't force anything. They understand that I'm just off today and, somebody else is on. So let's get them the ball so we can get this win. And I totally love that. And as we know, the Warriors were able to capitalize off of that. Now, I don't necessarily think that the Cavs during game 1 were playing terribly, but they just were not able to capitalize on a lot of those plays that they were, creating for themselves. They were attacking the basket. They were getting a lot of open looks, but they just could not finish. And that was my concern for the Cavaliers going into game 2, was just how they would be able to start scoring early and to start getting some open looks and getting their players involved early in game 2. And as J.R. Smith only had 3 points, and those 3 points in game 1 came late in the game. And so I was really concerned about that because they have impact players that have the ability to change the game. Kyrie Irving, LeBron James, J.R. Smith, like these guys can change the game and they're great players. Kevin Love, he's a great player as well with the opportunity to impact how the games are going. But during game 1, they were really quiet. And I was concerned about that because, you can't have your go-to players having a bad game and not stepping it up and expect to be winning against a team such as the Warriors, who have no problem playing team ball and have no problem creating those open looks for others. They're not just Clay and Stephen Curry. Like, they have a deep bench that's great and that could come up and step up. And that was what I was worried about. I was really honestly thinking that at the end of these 2 games, it would be split and that the Cavaliers would be able to pull off at least one win early so that they can get their momentum, because that's one thing that that's one thing that the Warriors are really good about, is killing a team's momentum. And once they know that they have killed your momentum, they don't let up. And that's what the Cavaliers needed to do was kind of get one win underneath their belts. And the Cavaliers, they're a team that it seems like once they get down, they start getting on themselves. They start, just feeling bad. And it really shows in how they play. They just start throwing stuff up. They start playing one-on-one basketball. They play selfish basketball, and it shows. And so I really, really was hoping that they would be able to pull off a win before heading back home so that they could have a little bit of a leg to stand on. Now they have to deal with the fact that the Warriors, they're charged up. They're, they're ready to go. They've won 2 games. They won them. The first one wasn't as easy as the second win, but this past game, it was an easy win for them. They didn't have to worry too much. The game was pretty much over by the third quarter. So, they're relaxing. They knew that they had that game in the bag. And so they're moving on into game 3. I don't think nonchalant, because they're still competitors and they still know that they need to bring their A game each and every time they step out on that floor. But they're a little bit more relaxed than the Cavs. The Cavs know that they need to get a win. They have to get this next win in order to stay afloat. They just do. And so the Warriors, they know that in 2 more games, it could be a sweep. And with the year that they've been having, nothing is impossible for the Warriors. The Warriors have had such a successful season that I don't think that they think anything is impossible for this series. A lot of people have, I personally thought it was going to be a great series. I thought that we were going to get 7 solid games and that it was going to be a lot of fun and that the Cavaliers were going to put up a fight, but that in the end, the Warriors would win the series and repeat again. But the way that it's looking now, the Warriors don't have much to worry about. And so I think going into game 3, they're not worried. They know what they need to do. They have had success, and they've had a lot of continued success because they are a team. And we talked about this a little bit in episode 1, where we discussed how the bigs would really need to get involved. And Bogut, he was acting up the first quarter of game 2. He came out strong. He set that tempo with 4 blocks just in the first quarter. He was not letting anyone into his paint without him having a say-so. He really controlled the paint on defense for the Warriors, especially in that first half. And I don't think the Cavaliers were expecting that. They, he plays strong, he does, but he really was making his presence known, and he was not allowing anything easy during that first quarter. And I know that really the Cavs were trying to set up a tempo. They scored early, they scored quickly. JR quickly put some points on the board, but Bogut was not letting them come easy. So, I think that is one thing that the Cavs were trying to do, but were not prepared for either, was just Bogut coming out and showing out. And he was swatting everything. He was helping on, that help defense, and he was rotating very well. And I really enjoyed that. I thought that was, really good, because I think that that pushed it over, for the Warriors early in that first half, was him really stepping it out on defense. He came off really strong. He seemed fearless. And that's great. That's exactly what the Warriors needed in that game too. Like I said, again, with that momentum, once the Warriors get their momentum going, it's really difficult to stop them, because it's not just 1 or 2 players that you have to worry about. They get everyone involved. I keep saying that just because it's true. It really is true. They don't depend on just 1 or 2 guys, and they don't just depend on offense. They come out strong on defense. They did a great job of slowing the pace down for the Cavs, especially in that first half, and forcing them to take shots that necessarily weren't bad shots, but they weren't great shots either. And they weren't getting any offensive rebounds. The Cavs were not doing a good job of getting second chance shots, and the Warriors just capitalized off that. They saw that, they weren't working as hard on offense to get those offensive rebounds, so the Warriors were just picking it up. They were going for it. They were doing their thing, and were able to get turnovers and turn that ball around to force it back the other way. So as we finish up this segment, I'm going to put in a quick little advertisement break, and when we come back, I'll discuss the second half of the game and just some things that I saw that were working really good for the Warriors and not so great for the Cavaliers. It was kind of a sad half for the Cavs. So when we come back, we're going to take a look at that, and going forward throughout the rest of the show, talk a little bit about the Olympics. We'll be right back.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Welcome back to the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast. We're discussing the second half of Game 2 of the NBA Finals between Golden State and the Cavaliers. Now, watching the first half of the game, I was excited. I was like, okay, this is going to be a good game. Despite the mistakes that the Cavs were making, it didn't seem too bad. And I was like, okay, this can be, they still have a whole second half and anything can happen. That's a lot of time to make some things happen. And the Cavaliers, they weren't behind by much. So I was really looking forward to the second half. I really, really was. And when the Cavs came out physical early in the third quarter, they were scrapping. And so I was like, okay, they're not going down without a fight. They're playing strong. They're going to do some, make some hard fouls, let the Warriors know that we're not going down easy. We're a strong team. And I was looking forward to it. I was like, okay, let's get it rolling. Let's get it going. Let's do this. But then comes the 9-minute mark when they got that 24-second violation. And at that point, I was basically done with the game. You got to take care of the ball. You got to know how much time is on the clock. They tell you that when you're young playing Parks and Rec basketball. Keep your eye, be aware of what's happening on the court. Be aware of where you're standing on the court. Be aware of the time that's on the clock. And this is the finals. And you're already down one game. You're down just a little bit in the third quarter, and you're passing the ball around and trying to get that open look, but then you have a shot clock violation, and that's really elementary to me. You got to take care of that ball. You got to treasure every possession, especially when you're down, and you're not down by much. So every possession counts, and the Cavs were already having a hard time, like I said, with those offensive rebounds and getting second chance shots. So you got to at least get that one chance. You got to at least get that one shot off. And when Shump passed it over to Richardson, I was like, what are you doing, dude? You just got to throw some up. I know that he was a little bit outside his range, but sometimes you just got to take that shot. Hopefully it'll go in. If not, you can, reset the clock, get a rebound, and set it back up, and let's get it going again. Let's get another chance. But so that's when I was a little bit irked with the Cavaliers, I was like, okay, what are we doing? You know, you guys are playing physical, but now we're not playing smart. So are we just going to fight the rest of the game, or are we actually going to play the rest of this game? And so I, of course, continued watching. And as you, if you were able to watch the game, then you did see that a little bit later, Curry had 4 turnovers and 4 fouls. And so they, of course, sat Curry out for a little bit. That's fine. So that's the time to really, for the Cavs to pick it up and to let's get it going. They're sitting out Curry. He's already in foul trouble. That's fine. Get him out the game. Let him sit down. Let's capitalize on the fact that he's out. Let's get our momentum going. The Cavs really needed to take advantage of that. And that's when they started to play a little bit of small ball. LeBron and Green were the tallest guys out there, the biggest guys out there. And LeBron, I wanted him to take advantage of that. I wanted him to attack the basket, play strong, play hard. Like, I love seeing him play and to dominate, to take the game over. You know, Curry's out the game. You're only down by a little. Let's do this. You know, you're the king. Let's take it. Let's get this going so that we can have a strong third quarter and finish out strong. But then LeBron travels, and he doesn't travel just once. He travels the next possession down. So it's 2 turnovers back to back on something that is not, you know, something that you could definitely avoid. That's something that you got to be smart about. Again, the Cavaliers were just not taking care of the ball. They were acting like they were up by a lot of points and that they could make these stupid little mistakes. But those mistakes were what were costing them. You know, all those turnovers that they were having were really costing them the game. And that third quarter, you could just see the Cavaliers were rushing a lot of things. They were having a lot of turnovers. They weren't depending on one another. Instead of coming together as a team, they slowly started breaking down. And that's something that happens often. The Cavaliers, it seems like they just get under pressure, they start falling apart, they start doing their own thing, and then the Warriors, they see that. And the Warriors, I feel like they love that. They love when their opponents start to fall apart. They just feed off of that and they attack you more. You know, they start, they threw in Barbosa, and Barbosa comes in quick, easy layups, wide open. There's nobody even contesting him at all. Those open looks at the other side of the floor. And that's when I start having a problem with the Cavaliers, and I start seeing them just breaking down. And the third quarter is really when the Cavaliers lost it. That was a pivotal quarter in the game. And that was a quarter when the Cavaliers could have turned it around, and they could have, you know, turned it up. They could have got going and really took advantage of the third quarter. They could have even, honestly, if they would have played physical, if they would have played smart, if they would have avoided a lot of those turnovers, because the Warriors, when they get a turnover, they're going to convert that. They're going to convert it into some points on the board for themselves. And they love it. It's a lot of fun. The fans love it. They love to see that. They love those, you know, quick pop-up threes that they love to do. They love that. And so now the fans are in the game. Now it's loud in the Oracle. It's always loud in the Oracle. But when you start messing up, and you start letting the home team just look like they're just playing around. Stephen Curry, even on the bench, he was playing around, you know? So that just goes to show you how lax the Warriors were during the third quarter. They're laughing on the bench. They're having a good time, and they're racking up points. And meanwhile, the Cavaliers are falling apart. LeBron, he actually sat out with 7 minutes left in the fourth quarter. He took a break. He sat out, which is fine. You know, everybody needs a break. Everybody needs to, you know, get to gather themselves and to take a break, take a breather. He does play a lot, and he does try to contribute a lot. But unfortunately, during the second half, throughout the entire game, Bronny, he was just, you know, he wasn't playing. He was playing strong, but he wasn't playing smart. He was causing a lot of turnovers. And that was one thing that the Cavaliers had struggled with in The first game was the Warriors converting those turnovers into points. And that's something that they really needed to take a step back on and take care of the ball this game, And the third quarter and all the way into the second half, the entire second half, they weren't taking care of the ball. They again were attacking the basket, but they weren't finishing, and they're not getting. I don't understand why the Cavaliers don't want to rebound the ball, especially when it's under their basket. Rebound the ball. Let's get that second chance shot up. Let's get a foul. Let's make some free throws, something. But it's kind of annoying to me when I'm watching them and they're not getting. I'm looking at them like, get a rebound. Somebody get a rebound. Somebody put it back up. That's probably my biggest pet peeve is when, you're on offense and you're not trying to get a rebound, or you're not working hard enough to get that rebound. And it wasn't just a few plays down. It was throughout the entire game that the Cavaliers were really having a hard time. And I think ultimately that's what their problem was. They were getting some really good open looks, but then they would either turn the ball over something really petty, something so small, or they would get the shot up and wouldn't get a rebound. So the Warriors, either way, with those two types of mistakes, the Warriors are turning the ball around. They're getting those points, quick, easy points. They didn't even really have to shoot a lot of threes. They were just getting a lot of quick 2 points up there. And they're feeding off the fact that the Cavaliers were just breaking down. They were breaking down on the bench. They weren't playing strong. They weren't playing hard. They it was ugly. It was ugly to watch. And it was one of those things where you almost want to call that mercy rule during, Parks and Rec, where they say, all right, let's just call the game because one team is just tearing up the other team. And the Cavaliers scored less than 40 points the entire second half. You cannot do that and expect to win. You cannot score less than 40 points in a half, especially against the Warriors, and expect to win. So we're going to go ahead and take a break. That's something that I really think that the Cavaliers need to consider going into Game 3 is just really playing smart and taking care of the ball. The Warriors they're going to shoot. We know that. They have a deep bench. We know that. That's fine. However, the Cavaliers, they're not playing smart. They're not getting those points up that they need to get up. They're not they're not giving themselves a chance. They're not giving themselves a chance to stay in it and to actually really do well against the Warriors. The Cavaliers are not a bad team. Their players are not bad. They're here for a reason. And it's just sad right now how they are performing, and it's kind of disappointing. I hope that these few days of rest and travel, they've had some time to look at some film and to see that about themselves and to decide whether or not they're going to step it up. And I guess we will see tonight in Game 3 as they are back home. The Cavaliers are back home. But like I mentioned before, the Warriors are going into Game 3 with 2 wins already under their belt. They just need 2 more. And that's nothing. The way that the Warriors have been playing, especially this postseason, wins are nothing to them. If they want it, they will come get it regardless of who's standing in their way. So that's something to look forward in Game 3. We're going to take a quick break. And when I come back, we're going to talk a little bit about the Olympics and this postseason, the off season, speak about the off season and what's to come.
Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines, they got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Welcome back to the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast. And looking to this summer, after the finals are over, we don't have to cry because basketball season is not over. We have the Olympics in Brazil, so we can definitely watch a lot of our favorite players still compete, and we still get to cheer on Team USA against a lot of these international teams and enjoy, as hoops fans, a game that we believe just never stops. But one favorite, Stephen Curry, has just decided to opt out of playing in Brazil this summer for the Olympics. He actually has never played in the Olympics before, so a lot of people, I included, was looking forward to this Olympics and hopefully that he would play so that we can keep watching him play and we can keep having these exciting games. He, of course, would be a major factor on Team USA, but he has suffered quite a few injuries with his ankles and his knees. He recently just sat out 4 games this postseason alone due to a right knee sprain that he has suffered, and so that's his main reason for sitting out this Olympics, despite the fact that it's a great opportunity, despite the fact that it's an honor to represent your country and compete against the world in a sport that originated here and that we all love, is the fact that his body just cannot take it anymore. He needs to rest. He needs to take some time. And he's not the only player that has made this decision solely based on the fact that they need to rest. Chris Paul has decided to opt out from the Olympics because he wants to rest his body. Anthony Davis is out due to an injury. And it kind of takes me back to the question, is the NBA season too long? Are these guys putting so much strain on their bodies throughout the year, playing in these games, practicing, the travel, the outside commitment that a lot of these guys put in because they are so dedicated to the game? Is it just all too much? Is the NBA season too long? And I think it is. I really do. I think that with as many games as these guys are playing and as many minutes that a lot of these guys are playing, it's too much strain on their body, and that the NBA season does need to be shortened. Now, I'm not saying to shorten the postseason. I think that having that 7-game series is a lot of fun. It's a great model for championship games, for the postseason for basketball. However, the NBA season itself should be shorter. It definitely should. A lot of these, as we watch our teams go into the postseason, that's a concern for the coaching staffs, for the players themselves, is that they know that they can do well in the postseason as long as their entire team stays healthy. It's as you transition into the postseason and your team has made it there, you have to start looking at what guys need to rest, what guys can we still push, how hard can we still push them without them getting injured, how you have guys like Stephen Curry who are injured that are playing through it, and there's a lot of other guys, Kevin Love, who had to sit out the rest of game 2 due to a head injury, he currently right now has not been practicing for game 3, so he may or may not be present for game 3, but that's another concern that the Cavaliers are going to have to deal with, is his injury. And the postseason, a lot of guys get hurt. It's just going to happen in the postseason, and it's because their bodies are just so tired and have been strained for months. They've been strained and they're getting ready. The summer is coming, the off season is coming. Some of these guys, there's still a lot of favorites that are still, considering, that have not withdrawn from the Olympics, such as Durant, Carmelo, James Harden. So we can look forward to perhaps seeing those guys on the team, but I too are considering, what this strain is on their body. And without their bodies, these guys just cannot play, and they have to consider longevity. And it's not unusual to see guys, you have Vince Carter, he's been playing for such a long time and he's doing so well still. He's considered old, but he's not that old. And it's because people take into consideration the fact that their bodies are taking such a pounding throughout the year. And now Team USA is set to be revealed later this June. I believe it's June 17th that they are going to reveal the roster for the team. So that's going to be interesting to see who's going to be on there and who's decided to stick with it and who has decided not to withdraw. I know that there are a lot of concerns as well with the Olympics being in Brazil with the Zika virus. Paul Gasol has expressed some concerns about that. So that may be another reason why some guys are withdrawing from the Olympics this summer. So that will be really interesting to see. Team USA has always been a worldwide favorite. They do well. They never let us down. It's always a lot of fun to watch them, and especially for us fans at home to see our favorites to continue to play. But we're asking them to play throughout their rest time, to play throughout this time when they need that therapy, when they need to rest their bodies, when they need to recover, to get stronger, to lean out if they need to. Some guys, just to make those better decisions. Some of these guys have families. A lot of them have families. A lot of them have other ventures that they're working on. LeBron, he also produces a TV show. You have guys that have other interests that they can pursue those interests, it's never wrong to pursue other things as long as you're staying healthy. And so that's one concern. And like I said before, I think that the season needs to be shortened a little bit, that these guys, not to shorten the games or anything, but to shorten the season, the amount of games that these guys are playing. And looking forward. So like I said, so Team USA is set to be revealed in June with training camp later in mid-July. They will be training in Vegas and with an exhibition game July 22nd against Argentina, who did well. They won in 2004, so that'll be a lot of fun to see and to watch Team USA play. And as we wrap up this episode, I did not want to end without taking a moment to honor 12-year NBA veteran Sean Rooks. Was pronounced, he was found. Now, as I wrap up this second episode of the podcast, I did not want to end without showing some honor to 12-year NBA veteran Sean Rooks. He has passed away at the young age of 46. He was, if you don't know who he was drafted 30th overall in the 1992 NBA draft by the Dallas Mavericks. He had a 12-year career in the NBA. He played for the Timberwolves, Clippers, Lakers. He played some time with the Hornets, Magic, as well as the Hawks before retiring in 2004. And he thankfully was able to transition into the coaching side. He was an assistant coach for the 76ers for a little bit. And he actually was just coming back from an interview with the Knicks yesterday before he passed away. So my prayers do go out to his family during this time. And I'm sure that it's very devastating. It's really sad when anyone passes away, and especially at such a young age. And it reminds us all that everything is not for, we cannot take things for granted, and that we have to tell everyone that we love them. Basketball is a brotherhood. All the guys say that. It's a sisterhood too, of course. I have a lot of good friends through basketball, and players do make an impact, and Mr. Rooks did have an impact on not only his teammates, but also his players that he was over as, an assistant coach for the 76ers and trying to get on the coaching staff with the Knicks which it's so very devastating, this news. So as we wrap up, I just want to take a minute to say that my prayers do go out to his family during this time, and that everyone don't forget to tell the people that you love them. As we wrap up, you can, of course, follow us on Facebook and Twitter. You can download the podcast on the SoundCloud, iTunes, and Google Play. And of course, you can always find us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Thank you. Bye-bye.